Peggy Etra is an actor, improviser, and puppeteer. In part 1 of the Swazzle Lunch Break, we learned what it was like for her to learn monitor puppetry for the very first time. Sean started the conversation off by asking her what was it like for an established actor in screen and stage to be introduced to the world of puppetry.
I think one supported the other. You know, it's like my training, my theatrical training, and so forth. It gave me a pool of knowledge, and it gave me an idea of what a camera is, or also what a stage is, and how to have stage presence, and what being an actor means. And because I know that you've talked to Bill Beretta at times, but I was listening to Bill Beretta's podcast, and he was saying his thing to puppeteers is be an actor, take an acting class, because puppets are individuals. They are not just, you know, they don't live in a void. They have a point of view. We are acting them.
Right.
So I felt that having that background was really helpful in coming into this world. Conversely, because I came in, and you know this, you were my teacher, that, you know, working with monitors. Yeah. And where we learned, where I was learning with the monitors not being flipped, and that's de rigueur, and it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
That there were parts of my brain that had never been used.
Right. Interesting.
Never, ever.
Right.
So the idea of becoming an amalgam of all these different art forms, and so the actor in me is like, oh, I know I want to bring this character forward. The technician in me is like, am I in frame? Am I upright? Where did I enter? What's my eye focus? And then the actor side is, did you just listen to anything anyone said? It's like, no, I don't know. So the idea of like, all right, brain, how do we now work in concert with all the fine motor, gross motor, intellect, recall, imagination. And there were just a lot of car crashes and a lot of like, I don't get it. And then the evolution happened, and you're like, oh, and then realizing that once you've done it, you have to keep doing it, because it's so addictive, because your brain says, wow, that was so cool. We linked all those different parts of our brain together and did something, and with someone else.
Right.
With someone else who's doing the same thing.
Use the analogy of a lot of car crashes along the way. And it's funny because it actually brings up an analogy that I was thinking of, which is puppetry is sort of like learning to drive, right? You know, when you first drive, you're like, okay, you put it in the reverse and you're like tentative. And that's the technical aspect of driving. Right. And before long, you're like on the freeway, you're just cruising along, you're going 65 and you're not even thinking about it. So
but see, you had said that when we were early on, and it's funny because sometimes, and I will think this way, it's like I'll be doing something and my brain very instantly will like, check your rearview mirror, check your side mirror. So like, I'm doing something, I'm like straight on. It's like, oh, that's right. I need to double check here and here and here and here. Like, but you just do a quick inventory, which is what you do when you drive.
How do you get yourself over the hurdle? How do you move past the thinking about the technical?
At some point, it all, I don't know exactly when or how, but it just clicked, and I identified with the creation on the screen. Now I'm manipulating that creation.
Okay.
But I'm like, oh, somebody just said something. The muscle memory tells me, you know, I can, what would normally be an actor response, like, oh, well, I can now interpret through my hand and the eyes on my head, on my knuckles. It's like, oh, and then the other puppeteer or puppeteers
Yeah.
their physical reaction to it. And it's like, suddenly we're playing.
Mm-hmm.
And all the other stuff, I just have to trust is there.
And how long do you think it takes to get to that point, to have that level of, like, do you remember the time where it kind of like clicked in? Like,
I was in training for almost 3 years before I matriculated into Puppet Up.
right.
And again, Puppet Up is a different kind of puppetry than television or film puppetry. It's a core, but it's different, as we know.
Yeah.
So in working with Puppet Up, because it's little bursts, but the idea that you don't drop out of frame. There is like, oh, if you mess up a take, there is no messing up a take. You're there. You have to justify if you have to leave or what just happened. You have to own it. And once I started doing that and going, oh, I can feel like inside, but I can't be that on the outside.
Right.
And then I was like, wait, I don't have to panic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good. I'm with other people. I'm being taken care of. It's like, I'm good. I'm okay. And I will tell you the moment, and I told him this too, the moment I felt like a puppeteer was, I was on tour with Puppet Up. We were at Bonnaroo. And that was crazy enough. Like, we're in this crazy tent. But Brian Henson was on that tour.
Nice.
And they had put the monitors about 6 inches to the lip of the stage. And that's germane to the story. And I wear, as we know, I have to wear big, tall shoes because I'm 5'6", so I need to get higher. The norm is a little bit higher than that. So I wear big platform shoes.
Yes.
So and the other thing too is don't leave a dead hand. So if someone picks up a live hand, somebody else jumps up from the chairs and gets in there to help.
Yeah, assisting. Yeah.
Assisting. So I'm like, cool. So I'm in the chairs. Brian gets up as Mr. Guy, and nobody gets up off the chairs. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to assist Brian Henson. And I run in and I put my right hand in and I'm there and I'm like, oh man, this is just amazing. And then Brian Henson likes to run around the stage.
Yes.
So it's sort of like that whip game you used to play as a kid. So he's running and he ran to the front of the stage and I see the monitors coming and I'm like, oh no. And there's a drop and I'm like, oh no. And I didn't want to hit the monitor. So I went over the monitor with these big fat shoes, went sideways so my shoe just fit, and then he went back. And both feet went over and then went back. And I didn't fall down and I kept doing what I was doing. And I came off and I went, yeah, I'm a puppeteer now. I can survive.
You survived.
That.
Yeah.
Then I can muddle through anything with a little bit of aplomb, maybe.
When you're mentioning the monitor being critical, I thought maybe what you're going to say was, you were going to say, hey, can I have the monitor moved?
You know, that when first starting out and then getting on the TV set, that was the one where you were like, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, I can't, I hate it, but I can't see. To then again, through osmosis, watch the maestros. You know, I again, how do I put this? I think I'm proficient,
yes.
But I have had the glory of working with true artists on set. Okay. And I know I watch them and go, how do they navigate? And it's always, from a place of professionalism and so forth, but it's also with a firmness and just, I can't see. I need the monitor. And then what'll happen is that other people go, okay, picture's up, let's go. And to just breathe through it and go, I need a monitor. I can't see. Yeah.
If you can't see, then you can't do your job.
No.
Right? You can't do what is required of you, which is all of the acting to deliver the lines, and all of that.
On this last gig, we were doing publicity shots, and I was like, yeah, sure. And so we grabbed myself and this other puppeteer. We go over, we're doing it, and the monitor went out. So the person running the session is listening to people in his ear tell him what shots he wants for that puppet. And so this is me. I don't have a monitor. Right. Yeah, we know. Can you just put the monitor up? I said, I'm sorry, I don't have a monitor. I need a monitor. Well, can you make the puppet look over here? I said, I don't have a monitor.
Right.
I don't have a monitor. And they're like, no. But what we need is, I said, I don't have a monitor.
Right.
And so I was like, I can't see. And they're like, well, all right, just look over here. I said, well, I can look over there, but I can't see it on my monitor. And it was the funniest thing because one of our producers walked by and went, well, she can't do that. She doesn't have a monitor. Oh, we need to get her a monitor.
Right.
And I thought, yes. And again, so if people have worked with puppets, they understand it. If people haven't, you're educating them. And sure enough, that monitor showed up and it was like, you just tell me where you want it. I'm good.
Right.
And they were like, oh, this is going very smoothly. And I was like, well,
Now, I'm curious to know, going from this experience of being a live, fleshy actor, as we sometimes say, to going into improv and having all that, and then to learning the puppetry, and then going into then melding those two worlds with the improv and puppetry. So I'm just curious to know about that experience for you.
So educational. And we've talked to that.
Yeah.
I find being on a set, I learn a lot of things I know, like, oh, I do know how to do that. And a lot of things I don't know. And if I don't know, I can ask. The puppetry community is so supportive and lovely. I mean, you just don't run really across a bad one in the bunch because you can't be. We have no personal space. We're, constantly on each other. And so I will say like, oh, I don't understand. And there's no judgment. People are incredibly kind. But if I'm like, ooh, I'm not comfortable with what I'm doing, I'm smart enough, I hope, to again watch the maestros and go, oh, how are they navigating? How do they navigate? Because again, I've been on sets with phenomenal talent. So it's like, I'm like, I love to talk, but there's a time where it's just shut up, listen, absorb. And again, if I say, there was a time just on this project we were doing where I went, the director was saying something and I'm like, I'm not seeing that. And then it was like, oh, because I only have camera A on my monitor. I needed B, but nobody said you're on B.
Right.
I was just like, my eye line was awesome on A. I was like, really, like, Peggy, can you check your eye line? And I'm like, yes, good. No, you're, and I was like, no, it's good. They're like, are you on B? Like, no, I'm not. Oh, hello. No, my eye line's horrible. Okay, fine. But so it's like, oh, I have to add certain things to my checklist. Right. And then it got to a point too with monitors. We had a great monitor guy. I'd go, Jesse, does it split? Does this one split? And he's like, no, let me get you another one. So but otherwise, like, yeah, that's a split one. You can split it and you can have A and B. And I'd be like, oh, I need B. He's like, only B? Or like, I don't know, only B? No, you need both. Okay, and he would just run in with the second one and I was up and going. But early on, not knowing that those were options, you'd be like, they say my eye line's off. I don't know. I don't know. Right. I don't, what do I do?
And like, how long do you think, like, for people who are just starting out in puppetry, and you are no longer just starting out, but I think a lot of people that tune into our Instagram, are people that are starting out. And I would love to know, like, how long does it take to get those sea legs? Like, how long before you like have that confidence?
Well, I think my first experience was on No, You Shut Up. And I did one character in one time and they didn't have me back. And for whatever reason, but I believe they didn't have me back is because I didn't know how to work two camera.
Oh, interesting.
I didn't understand.
It's a whole skill.
And so when I left there, I went, again, checklist. Did I break a camera? No. Did I knock anything over? No. Was I rude to someone? No. Okay. Those will go in the win column. Right. But was I out of my comfort zone? Absolutely. Did I know to ask? Or did I ask? No.
Maybe it's one of those things where you don't know how far along you've come until you look back and go, oh yeah.
Interesting too, when we were on Kidding,
Yeah.
When I came in, and I had Kristen as my assist.
Kristen Charney.
Kristen Charney, not only a wonderful puppeteer, but really just a kind and lovely person.
Yes.
But she was so terrific. She goes, would you like my help on certain things? And I was like, yeah, I'm all ear, because some people are like, no, let me figure it out. And I was like, no,
right.
If you're willing to share with me, I'm all ears.
Right.
And if you find people like that in your life, you listen. And she was a gem because, we would have times between takes where we were in the house that had fallen down. And she was like, do you like where that monitor is? Wouldn't it be better if it was here? And I was like, oh, I get it. I can take more purchase of who I am on a set. And not be like, oh, there's a monitor here, and if I crane over here a bit, I can see it. I'm good. No.
Join us for part 2 of the Swazzle Lunch Break when we talk to Peggy Etra about what it's like to create original characters.